Yes people, before we get into today's video, I want to say a massive thank you to EA for being the sponsors of today's video.
No one gives a crap who's better. All they care about is who's the best.
Yes people, what's going on? It's your boy, Croaky Voice Ashton, and I have a question for you.
Do you suck at Apex? Are you more used to dropping 20 bombs or 20 damage?
However good you are, there's always room for improvement in Apex Legends, and I have just the video for you. Presenting the most overlooked, overpowered, insanely strong legend in the game.
Knuckle cluster out!
Wait, Fuse? Really?
Okay, look, I may have exaggerated slightly about the Fuse bit, but I do have a video helping you guys improve at Apex Legends in Season 9. So...
Strap in, Newty. Things are about to get mighty interesting.
Also, you guys make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Over 87% of you guys who watch the videos are not subscribed, so if you are new around here, or if you just haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel to help me on the road to 100k subscribers. We're pretty cool around here. You won't regret it. Now, the key to all improvement in Apex Legends is defining the area in which you want to improve. There may be more than one, which is fine, but understanding there are different areas that you can improve in Apex is a big first step to take. For example, some players will be looking to win more games, while other players will want higher kill games and higher damage games. Some players will want to rank up in ranked, and some players may just want to improve their accuracy. My voice is so croaky today. I was up a bit late last night, celebrating the Chelsea Champions League win.
Listen carefully. Shut up!
Anyway, the first area I want to talk about where you can improve fast in Season 9 is going to be your accuracy. The first thing I do before every session of Apex Legends is go into the firing range, turn on the training dummies so that they shoot back at me and run around, even if they are a bit derpy. And practice with guns that I know I don't feel comfortable with, like the Flatline for example, or the Havoc. If I have a friend available to me, I know, I don't have many of them, then it's always good to do this with a friend instead of with the dummies, as obviously people play like people, and dummies do not. Having a regular friend to have 1v1s with is always a good thing, especially if they're better than you or of a similar skill level. It wouldn't really be beneficial to be running 1v1s with a player who is significantly worse than you, because obviously in your lobbies you're going to be playing players of similar skill levels, so playing against players who are similarly skilled for you is going to be the most accurate representation of enemies fighting in game. Whilst you're running 1v1s or training with specific weapons in the range, I recommend not using attachments or barrel stabilizers specifically, as obviously if you can control a weapon without a barrel stabilizer, it's only going to get easier when you do have one. That said, you should also train with different optics, as different optics have different levels of amplified recoil. For example, if you're using a 3x, the recoil is going to be amplified a ton more than if you're using a 1x, and you're going to have to learn how to counteract that with your recoil control. In the long term, accuracy isn't something that comes overnight, so picking up weapons that you don't feel comfortable with and using them consistently is going to help you in the long term build up a better muscle memory of how to control that weapon's recoil, and ultimately you will become better with that weapon over time. The exact same applies for weapons in which you feel comfortable using, but only with specific optics. If you pick up an R301 with a 3x enough, eventually you're going to get pretty good at controlling its recoil. Unlike me, who never picks it up and sucks. Moving on from aiming and accuracy though, I want to talk about 4 very important things. Game sense, awareness, decision making, and approach. These are 4 key factors that make up important parts of every good player. I want to get the easiest one out of the way first. Approach. Basically, if you're a good player, you're not going to be scared to fight anyone, be it another good player or a bot. Good players will more often than not assert themselves on situations, being aggressive and taking fights on their own terms. This means doing things such as pushing up on enemies once they've dealt a lot of damage but not necessarily knocked them, or closing distance in between themselves and enemies and not giving them too much time and respect that they can make plays of their own. Doing this all the time though wouldn't always result in good outcomes, as you may misread or misjudge a situation and overcommit to something. That's where awareness comes in. Reading situations and making snappy decisions is one of the most important things you can do in Apex Legends. When you play, you're going to be receiving a lot of information, audibly and visually. It's your job as a player to take in that information and process it all, not just tunnel vision one specific thing you've seen. For example, if you hit an enemy for 150 but you know his two teammates are in the same room, it's your job to assess that situation and think whether or not it's worth pushing in for that knock, where you may be alone and in a 3v1 situation. There are a ton of variables that can happen in any given situation, and it's your job to assess that situation and make a call based on that. Confidence and speed are two things that massively play into this. There may be certain plays that could help you win a fight, but only if you take that action very quickly. You can't really weigh it up all at once. You've got to make those snappy quick decisions, and sometimes they're going to win you fights, and sometimes they're going to lose you fights. One of the biggest mistakes I see a ton of people making on Apex Legends is to become tunnel visioned on doing one specific thing. Be it unloading a clip into an enemy even though there are two other people shooting at you, or running across an open road even though you're being shot at from across the way. Good players are never tunnel visioning. They're always making different plays based on the ever-changing scenarios around them, playing a free-flowing style of Apex, rather than just tunnel visioning one specific enemy or objective. You should always be open-minded when approaching any kind of situation, that things may change in an instant and you may have to make a different play based on what's happening around you. Having the awareness to spot third parties or enemies from different angles is also super important when thinking about this, so always make sure to have your eyes and ears peeled at all times, and always try and take in all of the information that you're given. Don't just tunnel vision one specific enemy if you know you can hear a team behind you. Even if you get the knock, the team behind you that you heard coming will probably knock you, and you'll know that they were coming, but because you were tunnel visioning that first original enemy, you die for it. This ties in nicely with the idea of identifying the biggest threat to you and acting on it quickly. We've all been in that situation in Apex where we're surrounded, a team in front of us and a team behind us. The key in these situations is to pick a side and fight them. A good Apex player isn't going to let himself be surrounded and then just let the events around him unfold. They have to take control of the situation, and the best way you can do this is by picking a team and everyone fighting them at once. Now obviously, this isn't always going to be easy if you're solo queuing, but the best hint for your teammates to go and attack is if you get the initial knock. So always focus one team, and you're more likely to get out of that situation than you might think. So I can assume that was quite a lot for you guys to take on, but don't panic. Literally, that's our next tip. Don't panic. This is another common reaction for a lot of players to have. Even in the higher up ranked lobbies, if you find yourself getting caught out and in a bad position, knowing you're going to die, people will start panicking. In a situation where you've been caught out and a lot of damage has been dealt to you, my first tip is of course always to never turn your back to the situation. That way you're definitely not going to be dealing any damage to your enemies, and chances are they'll probably knock you by shooting you in the back. Even if you're convinced that you will be getting knocked, dealing as much damage as possible to the enemies is the best chance of giving your teammates a good chance of winning the fight as a 2v3. Likewise, you may surprise the enemy by re-peeking them and even knock them in some cases, which can be the best case scenario. After all, Apex is a high time to kill game for this very reason, and clutches like this aren't outside of the realm of possibility. Panicking will often lead you to making bad decisions and ultimately getting nowhere, so staying calm and trying to play the situation to the best of your abilities based on what you have around you cover-wise and weapon-wise is going to lead to the best possible outcome for you in that moment, even if it is getting knocked. If you're panicking in these situations, then it's quite likely that you're not a very confident player, and that's going to be what my next tip is for you guys. You need to be confident and self-assured in your own ability. While it's really important for you guys not to get an ego, I do think it's really important as well that you have a level of self-assurance about your own ability that you can win fights with every single player that you see. Backing yourself to win situations which may seem unwinnable can lead to really great results for yourself, whereas if you're unconfident, then you're less likely to even try to make plays that could result in you winning the fight. Alongside this newfound self-confidence though, it's super important that you guys carry a level of self-awareness. What this means is being able to identify your own shortcomings when you die, rather than just blaming the game or the scenario that you were put in. There's always something that you could have done better in every scenario that you lose in, so it's better to analyze it yourself with a level of self-awareness, rather than just blaming things that definitely could have been prevented or controlled had you approached things differently. The last tip I want to give you guys is something that I feel really strongly about. You should not be changing your sensitivity all the time like I see so many players doing. One thing that's really important in Apex, as already mentioned, is muscle memory. Changing your sense all the time is not going to allow you to develop a good muscle memory when it comes to controlling recoil or having steady aim up close when you're hip firing. Although I've preached it a million times already, I will continue to preach that you should find your own settings which are good for you, and then stick with them for the rest of the game. Tweaks here or there may be needed to go one up or one down, but I don't think you should be changing it all the time. Muscle memory will only develop over time, so changing your sense all the time is not going to allow your brain to do that. You will see improvements in your accuracy over time if you just allow yourself to get used to your sensitivity, rather than just changing it when you feel like things aren't going well. One time that things will go well though is if you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more regular Apex Legends content from myself. Hope you've enjoyed this croaky voice video. My voice should be better by the next one, I promise. See you guys in the next one anyway. Take it easy and goodbye.